Ryan wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. The old garage was hot even in the evening, and the fan above his head was making more noise than air. He had been working on Mr. Thompson's old pickup truck since morning. His white vest was sticking to his body, showing the clear outline of his broad shoulders and muscular arms. Years of lifting heavy parts and working on cars had given him a strong, defined physique that most men his age would envy. He glanced at the wall clock. 6:50 p.m. Shit, he muttered under his breath. He quickly cleaned his hands and grabbed his jacket. Mia would be waiting at home, and he had promised he wouldn't be too late tonight. As he locked the garage door, he felt the familiar weight in his pocket, the few crumpled notes that were left after paying the rent and buying some groceries yesterday. It wasn't much. By the time he reached their small apartment, the sun had already started setting. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time and opened the door quietly. "Dad," a small voice called out the moment he stepped inside. 7-year-old Mia came running from the living room and hugged his legs. Ryan smiled and lifted her up with one arm like she weighed nothing. "Hey, princess," he said, kissing her cheek. "How was school?" "Good," she replied, then made a face. "But I'm hungry." Ryan's smile faded a little. He gently put her down and walked into the small kitchen. He opened the fridge and stared at the almost empty shelves. There were 2 eggs, a little milk, and some bread. That was it. He had planned to buy groceries today, but Mr. Thompson still hadn't paid him for the repair work. He was supposed to come tomorrow. Ryan took a deep breath and forced a smile before turning around. "All right," he said cheerfully. "How about we make some egg sandwiches tonight?" Mia nodded happily and sat at the small table. Ryan started making the sandwiches, moving around the tiny kitchen with practiced ease. Even though money was always tight, he tried his best to make sure Mia never felt like they were struggling too much. After dinner, he helped her with her homework and then gave her a bath. Once she was asleep, Ryan sat on the old couch in the living room and stared at the ceiling. He was only 32, but some days he felt much older. His wife had left him when Mia was just 2 years old. Since then, it had been just the two of them. He worked long hours at the garage, took every extra job he could find, and still, there were days when he had to choose between buying medicine for Mia or putting gas in his old car. He never complained in front of his daughter, but alone at night, the weight of everything sometimes felt too heavy. Around 10:30 p.m., Ryan decided to take a walk. He needed some fresh air. He put on a black hoodie over his vest and stepped outside. The streets were quiet. He walked with his hands in his pockets, lost in his thoughts. As he turned the corner near the old park, something caught his eye. A woman was sitting on the bench near the bus stop. She was wearing old, dirty clothes and had a worn-out scarf wrapped around her head. Even from a distance, Ryan could tell she didn't have proper clothes for the cold night. She was hugging herself tightly, trying to stay warm. Ryan slowed down. He had seen homeless people before, but something about this woman made him stop. She looked young, maybe in her early 30s. Her face was hidden under the scarf, but he could see that she was shivering. Ryan stood there for almost a minute, fighting with himself. He didn't have much. In fact, he barely had enough for himself and Mia tomorrow. But looking at the woman sitting alone in the cold, something inside him moved. He walked toward her slowly. When he reached the bench, the woman looked up at him with cautious eyes. Even in the dim streetlight, Ryan could see she had beautiful features, though they were hidden under dirt and exhaustion. He cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Are you okay?" The woman didn't answer. She just looked at him warily. Ryan hesitated for a second, then sat down on the other end of the bench, keeping some distance. "I don't have much," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out whatever money he had left, just a few notes. He held it out to her. "But you can take this. Maybe buy something warm to eat." The woman looked at the money but didn't take it. Ryan sighed and put the money back in his pocket. He thought for a moment, then spoke again. "I live nearby," he said. "I have some food at home. Not much. But if you're hungry, I can bring you something." The woman finally spoke. Her voice was soft but tired. "You don't have to do that," she said. Ryan gave a small smile. "I know," he replied, "but I want to." He stood up. "Wait here. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Before the woman could say anything, Ryan turned around and started walking back toward his apartment. His heart was beating a little faster than usual. He didn't know why he was doing this. He barely had enough for himself and Mia, but something about the woman sitting alone in the cold had made it impossible for him to just walk away. When he reached home, he quietly opened the fridge. There wasn't much left after dinner. He found 2 slices of bread and a small packet of biscuits he had bought for Mia yesterday. He also took the last apple from the basket. He packed everything in a small paper bag and headed back out. When he returned to the bench, the woman was still there. She looked surprised to see him again. Ryan handed her the paper bag. "It's not much," he said, "but it's all I have right now. There's some bread and biscuits, and an apple." The woman took the bag slowly. For a moment she just stared at it. Then she looked up at Ryan. Even in her dirty clothes and with her face partially covered, her eyes were striking. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "You don't even know me." Ryan shrugged, a tired but genuine smile on his face. "Because I know what it feels like to be hungry," he said simply, "and I wouldn't want anyone to feel that way if I can help it. Even a little." The woman didn't say anything for a long time. She just kept looking at him. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, feeling a little awkward. "Anyway, I should go. My daughter is sleeping inside. Take care of yourself." He turned to leave. "Wait!" the woman called out. Ryan stopped and looked back. She was still holding the paper bag tightly in her hands. "Thank you," she said softly. "Really. Thank you." Ryan gave her a small nod and a warm smile. "No problem," he said. "Good night." As he walked back toward his building, he didn't notice the woman watching him the entire time. She sat there on the bench, holding the simple paper bag like it was something precious. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't thinking about her experiment. She was thinking about the handsome stranger who had given her his last meal without expecting anything in return. Ryan woke up early the next morning, as he always did. The sun had barely risen when he stepped out of the shower. He stood in front of the mirror for a moment, drying his hair with a towel. Even without trying too hard, his body showed the results of years of hard work. His shoulders were broad, his arms were strong, and his chest and stomach were well defined. From the physical labor he did every day at the garage. He wasn't the type who spent hours in a fancy gym, but lifting car parts and working long hours had naturally built a powerful physique. He put on a black t-shirt and jeans, then walked into the kitchen to make breakfast for Mia. As he cracked 2 eggs into the pan, last night's events came back to his mind. The woman on the bench. He didn't know why, but he couldn't stop thinking about her. There was something in her eyes that didn't match the way she was dressed. Even though she looked tired and dirty, her posture and the way she spoke felt different, like she wasn't used to being in that situation. Ryan shook his head and focused on making breakfast. He didn't have time to overthink. He had work to do, and Mia needed to get ready for school. After dropping Mia off at school, Ryan headed to the garage. The day went by like any other, fixing cars, dealing with customers, and trying not to think too much about money. But every now and then, his mind would drift back to the woman he had given his food to last night. Around 4 p.m., he decided to take a short break. He wiped his hands and stepped outside for some fresh air. Without even realizing it, his feet started walking toward the same street where he had seen the woman yesterday. When he reached the bench near the bus stop, he slowed down. She was still there. The same woman was sitting on the same bench, wearing the same old clothes. But today, she looked even more exhausted. Her head was resting against the back of the bench, and her eyes were closed. The paper bag he had given her last night was still beside her, now empty. Ryan stood a few feet away, watching her quietly. He didn't know what came over him, but he walked closer and sat down on the other end of the bench again. The woman opened her eyes when she felt someone sit beside her. When she saw it was him, her expression changed slightly. Not fear, but something close to surprise. "You again," she said softly. Ryan gave a small smile. "Yeah, me again." She sat up straighter and looked at him properly this time. Even under the dirt and the old scarf, Ryan could see that she had sharp, beautiful features. Her eyes were a light brown, and even though she looked weak, there was something graceful about the way she carried herself. "You didn't have to come back," she said. "I know," Ryan replied. "I just wanted to check if you were okay." The woman looked down at her hands. For a moment, she didn't say anything. "I'm fine," she finally answered, but her voice didn't sound very convincing. Ryan studied her face. Something didn't feel right. Her hands were too clean for someone who had been living on the streets. And even though her clothes were torn and dirty, they didn't have the same worn-out smell that most homeless people carried. It was strange. He didn't say anything about it, though. Instead, he asked, "Did you eat the food I gave you last night?" She nodded. "Yes. Thank you. It was kind of you." Ryan leaned back on the bench and looked at the road ahead. "It's not much," he said, "but sometimes even a little helps." The woman glanced at him from the side. She had been observing people for almost 20 hours now as part of her experiment. Most people either ignored her completely or looked at her with disgust. But this man, he was different. He had given her food even when he clearly didn't have much himself. And now he was sitting here again, talking to her like she was a normal person. It was confusing her. "Why are you being so nice to me?" she asked suddenly. "You don't even know my name." Ryan turned his head and looked at her. A small, tired smile appeared on his face. Because I've been in bad situations before, he said honestly. And I know how it feels when no one cares. I wouldn't want anyone to feel that way, especially not a woman sitting alone at night. The woman was quiet for a long time after that. Ryan stood up after a few minutes. I should go, he said. My daughter will be home soon. Take care of yourself. He was about to walk away when the woman spoke again. Wait. Ryan turned around. She hesitated for a second, then asked, What's your name? Ryan, he replied. Ryan Cole. The woman nodded slowly. Ryan, she repeated, as if testing how the name sounded. Ryan gave her a small nod and started walking back toward the garage. He didn't see the way she kept looking at his back until he disappeared around the corner. That evening, after putting Mia to sleep, Ryan sat on the couch with a glass of water in his hand. He couldn't stop thinking about the woman. There was something about her that didn't add up. The way she spoke, the way she looked at him. It didn't feel like someone who had been homeless for a long time. He told himself it wasn't his business. He had enough problems of his own, but still, a part of him was worried about her. The next day, when Ryan finished work early, he found himself walking toward the same bench again. He didn't even realize he was doing it until he was already halfway there. When he reached the spot, the woman was sitting in the same place. But today, she looked even weaker. Her lips were dry, and she was hugging herself tightly because of the cold wind. Ryan walked up to her without saying anything at first. He simply took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. The woman looked up at him, surprised. You'll get cold, she said. I'll be fine, Ryan replied, sitting down beside her. You need it more than I do. She pulled the jacket tighter around herself. It smelled like motor oil and something warm, like him. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Ryan spoke. You know, if you want, I can ask around. There's a shelter 2 streets away. They might have space. The woman shook her head. I'm okay here, she said. Ryan didn't push her. He just nodded. After some time, he stood up. I have to go home, he said. But I'll come back tomorrow, same time, if you're still here. The woman looked at him for a long moment. Something in her eyes had changed. The coldness that was there when they first met was slowly melting. Okay, she said softly. Ryan gave her a small smile and walked away. As he was leaving, he didn't notice that the woman was still watching him. She pulled his jacket closer to her body and whispered to herself, Ryan Cole. For the first time since she started this experiment, Sophia wasn't thinking about proving how selfish people were. She was thinking about the handsome, tired man who kept coming back to check on her, even when he had almost nothing to give. On the 3rd day, Ryan finished work earlier than usual. He had been thinking about the woman on the bench the entire day. He didn't even understand why. She was a stranger, someone he had only met twice, but something about her kept pulling him back. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, like she wasn't used to people being kind to her. Or maybe it was the quiet sadness in her eyes that reminded him of his own struggles. Whatever it was, he found himself walking toward the same bench again after locking up the garage. When he reached there, she was already sitting in the same spot. But today, something was different. She looked even more tired than before. Her face was pale, and she was hugging herself tightly under his old jacket. Ryan walked up to her and sat down without saying anything at first. He simply placed a small paper bag between them. The woman looked at the bag, then at him. What's this? She asked softly. Some sandwiches, Ryan replied. I made them before coming. It's not much, but it should fill your stomach for a while. She stared at the bag for a long moment before slowly picking it up. You didn't have to do this again, she said. Ryan leaned back on the bench and looked at the sky. I know, he said, but I wanted to. They sat in silence for a few minutes. The evening was getting colder and the wind was picking up. Ryan noticed that she was still shivering, even though she was wearing his jacket. Without thinking much, he shifted a little closer to her on the bench, trying to block the wind with his body. You're cold, he said simply. The woman looked at him. For the first time, she gave him a small, tired smile. You're a very strange man, Ryan Cole, she said. Ryan chuckled lightly. I've been called worse. She looked down at the sandwiches in her hand. Why do you keep helping me? She asked. You clearly don't have much yourself. I can see it in your eyes. And in the way you talk about your daughter. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke honestly. Because I know what it's like to feel invisible, he said. When my wife left, a lot of people disappeared from my life too. Friends, relatives, even some neighbors. It's easy to ignore someone when they're struggling. I don't want to be that kind of person. The woman looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite understand. There was something heavy in her eyes, like guilt. Ryan continued, his voice low. Also, You remind me of someone. She raised an eyebrow. Who? Myself, he said with a small smile. A few years ago, when I was at my lowest, I used to sit alone like this too, wondering how I was going to feed my daughter the next day. The woman didn't say anything. She just kept looking at him. After some time, Ryan stood up. I should go, he said. Mia must be waiting. But I'll come back tomorrow. Same time. The woman nodded slowly. As Ryan was about to walk away, she called out to him. Ryan? He turned around. She hesitated for a second, then asked, Can I ask you something? Sure. If you found out that someone was lying to you, she said carefully, but their reason for lying wasn't bad, would you still be angry? Ryan thought about it for a moment. I think it depends, he replied honestly. If someone lies to hurt me, that's one thing. But if they're lying because they're scared or because they don't know how to tell the truth, then maybe I'd try to understand. The woman looked at him for a long time. Thank you, she said quietly. Ryan gave her a small nod and walked away. That night, after putting Mia to sleep, Ryan couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. There was something about the way the woman asked that question that bothered him. It felt personal, like she wasn't just asking randomly. He sat on the couch, rubbing his face with his hands. Who are you really? He whispered to himself. Meanwhile, a few streets away, Sophia was sitting inside her car. She had removed her disguise and was now back to looking like her usual self. Beautiful, well-dressed, and elegant. But her mind was in complete chaos. She had been doing social experiments for years. She had seen selfish people, rude people, and people who completely ignored those in need. But Ryan was different. In just 3 days, he had shown her more kindness than most people in her rich circle ever had. And the worst part was, she was starting to feel guilty. Very guilty. She had lied to him. She had made him believe she was homeless and starving, when in reality, she had a luxurious apartment, expensive clothes, and more money than most people could imagine. She had eaten proper meals while he gave her his last food without thinking twice. Sophia leaned her head against the steering wheel. What am I doing? She whispered. She had planned to do this experiment for 24 hours, and then reveal everything in a video. But now, after meeting Ryan, everything felt wrong. She didn't want to expose him or make content out of his kindness. She just wanted to know more about him. She thought about his handsome face, his tired but warm smile, and the way he spoke about his daughter with so much love. She thought about his strong arms and the way he had given her his jacket without hesitation. For the first time in her life, Sophia was confused about what she really wanted. She picked up her phone and opened her notes. She had been recording everything for her experiment. But tonight, she didn't feel like writing about how kind Ryan was for content. Instead, she just wrote one line. Ryan Cole. Who are you? The next evening, when Ryan came to the bench again, Sophia was already waiting. But today, she looked even more restless. Ryan sat beside her like always. You came again, she said. I said I would, Ryan replied with a small smile. They talked for almost an hour. Ryan told her a little more about his life, how hard it was raising Mia alone, how he sometimes felt like he was failing as a father, and how he missed having someone to share the weight with. Sophia listened quietly. Every word he said made her feel worse about lying to him. When it was time for Ryan to leave, he stood up and looked at her. Listen, he said gently. I know we don't know each other well, but if you ever need help with anything, food, a place to stay for a night, or just someone to talk to, you can come to my garage. It's not much, but it's warm, and you won't be alone. Sophia felt something break inside her chest. She wanted to tell him the truth right then and there. She wanted to say that she wasn't homeless, that she was actually a rich businesswoman who had been lying to him for days. But the words got stuck in her throat. Instead, she just nodded. Thank you, Ryan, she said softly. Ryan gave her one last smile before walking away. As Sophia watched him leave, she felt something she had never felt before. She was falling for a man who didn't even know her real name, and she had no idea how she was going to tell him the truth without breaking everything they had started to build. On the 5th day, Ryan could feel that something was different. Sophia had been quieter than usual the last 2 times they met. She still smiled when she saw him, but there was a sadness in her eyes that wasn't there before. She kept looking at him like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Ryan wasn't stupid. He could sense that she was hiding something, but he didn't push her. He knew what it felt like to carry secrets. He had been carrying his own for years. That evening, when he reached the bench, Sophia was already waiting. She was wearing the same old clothes, but her posture was tense. As soon as she saw him, she stood up. Ryan, she said, her voice slightly shaky. Can we talk? Somewhere private? Ryan looked at her for a moment, then nodded. There's a small park behind the old church, he said. It's usually empty at this time. We can go there. They walked in silence. Ryan kept his hands in his pockets, while Sophia walked beside him, with her head slightly lowered. When they reached the park, they sat on an old wooden bench under a tree. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Sophia took a deep breath and turned to face him. I need to tell you something, she said. Her voice was low but clear. And I need you to listen until the end, before you say anything. Ryan looked at her quietly. Something in her tone made his chest feel tight. Go ahead, he said. Sophia looked down at her hands. She was twisting her fingers nervously. My name isn't what I told you, she began. Actually, I never told you my real name. I lied to you from the very first day. Ryan's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he didn't interrupt. I'm not homeless, Sophia continued. I never was. I'm actually a businesswoman. I own a company. I have money. A lot of it. She paused, waiting for his reaction. But Ryan didn't say anything. He just kept looking at her with an unreadable expression. Sophia swallowed hard and kept going. I was doing an experiment, she admitted. A 24-hour social experiment. I wanted to see how people treat those who have nothing. So I disguised myself as a homeless woman. I've been doing these kinds of experiments for content, for my channel and my company's research. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with guilt. But then I met you, she said softly. And everything changed. You were kind to me when you had almost nothing yourself. You gave me your food, your jacket, your time. You checked on me every single day. No one has ever treated me like that before, not without wanting something in return. Ryan was still silent. His jaw was clenched, and his hands were tightly fisted on his lap. Sophia's voice started to break. I should have told you the truth earlier, she said, but I was scared. I didn't want you to hate me. And the more time I spent with you, the more I didn't want this to end. I started looking forward to seeing you every day. I started caring about you, and about your daughter. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm so sorry for lying to you. The silence that followed was heavy. Ryan slowly stood up from the bench. He ran a hand through his hair and let out a bitter laugh, but there was no humor in it. So this whole time, he said, his voice low and rough, you were just pretending? All of it? No, Sophia said quickly, standing up too. Not all of it. My feelings for you are real, Ryan. I didn't plan for that to happen. I didn't expect to. Stop, Ryan cut her off, raising his hand. His voice was calm, but there was clear pain behind it. Just stop. He looked at her, and for the first time since they met, there was disappointment in his eyes. I trusted you, he said quietly. I gave you the little I had. I told you things about my life, about my daughter. And the whole time, you were just playing a game? It wasn't a game, Sophia said, her eyes filling with tears. Not after I met you. Please believe me. Ryan shook his head. You know what the worst part is? He said. I actually started to like you. I looked forward to seeing you every evening. I thought, maybe there was something real between us. But it was all fake. It's not fake, Sophia said, stepping closer. Ryan, please. My feelings for you are real. I've never felt like this about anyone before. You changed something in me. Ryan looked at her for a long moment. His expression was tired and hurt. You know what hurts the most? He said. I have a daughter. She's only 7. She already has one parent who walked out on her. I've spent years trying to protect her from lies and disappointment. And now I brought someone into our lives who was lying to us from the beginning. Sophia's tears started falling. I never wanted to hurt you or Mia, she whispered. Ryan took a step back. I need some time, he said. I can't do this right now. He turned around and started walking away. Ryan, please, Sophia called after him, her voice breaking. Don't go like this. Let me explain everything properly. But Ryan didn't stop. He kept walking until he disappeared around the corner, leaving Sophia standing alone in the park with tears streaming down her face. For the first time in her life, Sophia realized that she had made a terrible mistake. She had come here to expose how selfish people were. Instead, she had fallen for the kindest man she had ever met, and broken his trust in the process. Ryan didn't go to the bench for the next 4 days. Every evening, after putting Mia to sleep, he would sit alone on the couch and think about everything that had happened. He felt stupid. He had started to open up to someone after so many years, and once again, he had been lied to. The betrayal hurt more than he wanted to admit. But even in his anger, he couldn't completely hate Sophia. He kept remembering the way she looked at him when he gave her food, the way she listened when he talked about Mia, the way her eyes softened whenever he was near. Those moments had felt real, painfully real. Still, he didn't go back. On the 5th evening, just as Ryan was locking up the garage, he saw a familiar figure standing outside. Sophia, but this time, she wasn't wearing her homeless disguise. She was dressed in simple but clean clothes, a beige coat and jeans. Her hair was tied in a loose ponytail, and even without makeup, she looked beautiful. In her hands, she was holding a small paper bag. Ryan stopped walking. Sophia took a few hesitant steps forward. "I know you probably don't want to see me," she said quietly, "but I needed to talk to you. Just once. After that, if you still want me to leave, I will." Ryan didn't say anything. He just looked at her. Sophia took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm really, really sorry for lying to you. I know I hurt you, and I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything. But I needed you to know that what I felt for you wasn't fake. None of it was." She looked down at the ground for a second before continuing. "I came here thinking everyone was selfish. I wanted to prove that people don't care about others anymore. But then I met you. You shared your last meal with me when you had almost nothing. You checked on me every single day. You gave me your jacket. You talked to me like I mattered. No one has ever done that for me before, not without wanting something in return." Ryan stayed silent, but his expression had softened just a little. Sophia looked up at him again. Her eyes were glassy. "I fell for you, Ryan," she said honestly. "I didn't plan it. I didn't expect it. But it happened. And when I saw how much I hurt you, it broke something in me. I don't want to be the person who lies to good people anymore." She stepped closer and gently placed the paper bag in his hands. "This is for you and Mia. It's not much, but I wanted to do something, even if you never want to see me again." Ryan looked inside the bag. There was some fresh bread, fruits, and a small toy for Mia. He stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "You really hurt me, Sophia," he said, his voice low. "I trusted you. I let you near my daughter. That's not something I do easily." "I know," Sophia whispered, "and I hate myself for it." Ryan looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "But," he continued, "I also can't stop thinking about you. Even when I was angry, I kept wondering if you were okay. I kept remembering how you looked at me when I gave you that food. That part felt real." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "It was real," she said. "Everything I felt for you was real." Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not saying I forgive you completely," he said, "and I'm not saying things will be easy. But if you're serious about changing, and if you're willing to be honest with me from now on, then maybe we can start over." Slowly, Sophia nodded quickly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'll do anything," she said. "I just want to be in your life, and Mia's. Properly this time." Ryan gave her a small, tired smile. "Then start by having dinner with us tomorrow," he said. "No more lies. No more disguises. Just you." Sophia let out a small, relieved laugh as more tears fell. "Okay," she whispered. "I'd like that." Over the next few months, things changed, slowly but surely. Sophia started visiting Ryan and Mia regularly. At first, it was just dinners and short visits, but gradually she became a part of their small world. She helped Mia with her homework, cooked with Ryan sometimes, and slowly earned both their trust again. Ryan was still careful. He didn't rush anything, but he couldn't deny the growing feelings he had for Sophia. She was no longer the rich woman doing an experiment. She was someone who genuinely cared about him and his daughter. One evening, after putting Mia to sleep, Ryan and Sophia were sitting on the couch. Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd fall in love with a mechanic who gives away his last meal to strangers," she said softly, smiling. Ryan chuckled and wrapped his arm around her. "And I never thought I'd fall for a rich businesswoman who pretended to be homeless," he replied. Sophia looked up at him. "I love you, Ryan," she said. "And I love Mia too. I want to be here, with both of you. For real this time." Ryan looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then he leaned down and kissed her gently. When he pulled back, he smiled. "I love you too," he said. "Both of us do." 6 months later, on a quiet Saturday morning, Ryan and Sophia got married in a small ceremony, with only close friends and Mia present. Ryan wore a simple black suit that fit his strong frame perfectly, and Sophia looked breathtaking in a simple white dress. After the ceremony, as they stood together with Mia between them, Ryan looked at his new wife and daughter and felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. He had shared his last meal with a stranger one cold evening, and in return, life had given him a family again. End of story. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and drop a comment below. Your love and support keep me going. Don't Mama. Thank you for watching till the end. Take care.